In this video, we're checking back in on the WandaVision spec books, and we gotta talk about West Coast Avengers number 45. Was it worth it? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. And in this video, we're checking back in on the WandaVision spec books, and we got to talk about West Coast Avengers number 45, first appearance of White Vision. Now, there has been crazy movement in the market, so, we got to check back in on the numbers. Now that we're past this show, we sort of have to ask the question, was it worth it? Were some of these spec books worth picking up? But before I get into the video, if you guys could drop me a like, comment, or subscribe if you're enjoying my content, love interacting with you guys, and let's keep this conversation going. All right, with that being said, let us take a look at some of these spec books. And for those who don't know, I've made some videos in the previous weeks that kind of analyze certain spec books as they related to WandaVision and sort of took a look at the numbers and seen how they kind of moved week to week. So, now that we're past the show, and this episode might talk a little bit about spoilers. So if you haven't seen the finale of WandaVision, this is my spoiler warning to you. But now that we're past the show, I kind of wanted to look at a couple of the spec books, namely Fantastic Four number 94, Amazing Spider-Man Annual 16, and now this new one, West Coast Avengers number 45, and just take a look at the numbers with you guys and talk a little bit about, where the market's at with them, and then talk a little bit about, the future for these particular books and where, the market might fall, once we start to see, new shows coming in, and will we get these characters again? All right. So before we talk about that though, let us get into, the books that really popped up. And I really want to focus on West Coast Avengers number 45, first appearance of White Vision. And, I'm sure you guys are well aware, but here's the book right here. You can see West Coast Avengers number 45. This is the first appearance of White Vision. And this is one of the books that has really, really blown up in the last couple of weeks because we got that incredible reveal where Vision was reanimated, so to speak, and, in his white aesthetic form. So overnight, this book, became super, super, super hot. Like everybody was going for this book. And just to put it into context for those of you who don't know, this is a book that I personally have seen in dollar bins at least 3 or 4 times. This is one that, like, at the very, very most expensive, I've seen this book in LCSs prior to the show for, selling around $5, maybe 10 at the very, very most. So just to put it in perspective for you guys, like that is where this book was, before the show occurred. But once we got the reveal that, Vision was in fact going to be, this White Vision, we got that on February 26th. It was episode number 8 where we got that reveal. This book absolutely exploded. So let me just show you really quickly here. So this is a CGC 9.8 that sold on February 15th. You can see that here. So this was before, before we got Vision in his white aesthetic, but still during the WandaVision show. This is kind of where the CGC 9.8 was. So let's take a look at this. This was a best offer accepted. See, it was listed at $800. So we'll do our little trick here. See original listing. We go down here. We right click on anywhere in the white area. We say view page source, Control F, tax, X, right? And then we go over here to the number and we can see the tax exclusive price, $650. So you can see right there. So at the time before we revealed White Vision, a CGC 9.8 was selling at the $650 mark. So, we flash forward, we get episode, number 8, I believe it was. And then that night, February 26th, what do we get? We see here's a CGC, February 26th, sold at 4:28 a.m. So that somebody out there watched the episode and then immediately went to eBay and, after the reveal, tried to get their hands on this book. So this one sold, as you can see, this was not a best offer. This sold actually for $14.75 plus $50 shipping. So a CGC 9.8 selling for $14.75. So just in 1 week's time, we go from $650 to effectively $1,500. We 3x'd our money, which is, bananas that once we got the reveal of White Vision, this book became, a $1,500 book. And just to put it into perspective here, let me pull up a couple things just to show you guys. So, again, this was West Coast Avengers, number 45. And before, this is before Go Collect could update its numbers. At one point, a 9.8 was fair market value, $575. And so the fact that this book sold for $1,500, let's put that into perspective here. Here's the actual Avengers Silver Age book, which is the first appearance of Vision. And what do we see here? For $1,500, you effectively, you could get your hands on a CGC 9.2 maybe, or a CGC 9.0 for, roughly around the same money. So, it's really crazy to me that you could like ask that question. For a CGC 9.8, West Coast Avengers number 45, first appearance of White Vision, if you wanted to buy that book, it would cost you the same amount to buy, if you wanted to get the original first appearance of Vision at a CGC 9.0. I mean, I don't know which one you guys would rather have, but, I know the answer for myself. And so that's just crazy to me that, that's where the value of this new book effectively is. But, that kind of begs the question, we'll talk about this later in the video, but like, what is the future of a book like this? And, how do we as a market evaluate books? And, I always talk about how, books are only as valuable as they are relevant to pop culture. So, if in fact, White Vision, which, from the end of the final episode, it's inferred that, White Vision might be the character who continues on in the MCU. If in fact we're only going to get White Vision from here on out, then, maybe West Coast Avengers number 45 is the go-to book, right? Like, if White Vision is the character that is significant within pop culture, then it doesn't matter that his original first appearance was, in that form. It's like we see this in other examples, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Like, drop me a like or a comment or subscribe if you're enjoying this stuff, because let me know what you guys are thinking. Because, for instance, like I think of like Amazing Spider-Man 361, right? Like there's first appearance of Carnage, but like Cletus Cassidy actually appeared in an Amazing Spider-Man book before 361. So, but we as a market, we don't value that book more than, 361. We actually like 361 more. So to me, this is like not too different of a situation where if White Vision becomes the main Vision, in the MCU for many, many years to come, now we only get White Vision, and then maybe even the comic book market, maybe Marvel, I don't know where Vision is currently in the continuity within the comic book, modern comic book world, but let's say that, they bring him back like White Vision and he becomes like a part of, the Marvel comic book continuity, then, who cares about this old Vision book from the Silver Age, and maybe West Coast Avengers 45 is the go-to book. I don't know. It's really interesting, to think about that. So let me know what you guys think. But let's go on now and take a look at some of the other numbers here, because these are really, really interesting to me. So here I have my, my napkin math, as I like to call it. And I just kind of want to show you guys, just so you get a quick understanding of this. So West Coast Avengers number 45, first appearance of White Vision. After episode 8, the median raw value was 125, right? I went in through the eBay numbers. I did the math myself. And, here we have the median raw. And then after the show, now that we've, got the final episode, and it was inferred that White Vision is, still alive by the end of the show, the median raw value here is now $100. So we had a 20% drop off after the end of the show. And that is something that to me I feel like it's just natural, right? There's always going to be like a correction once you get a book that's like so hot because of a great reveal or a tease at the end of an episode. There's going to be so much FOMO and so much excitement, and then there's going to be a market correction because everyone's going to fill the market with supply because everyone knows that their book is hot and they want to go sell it. So similarly with the CGC 9.8, granted I showed you one that went for $1,500, immediately after the reveal. But now when I look at the CGC 9.8 numbers for the Vision book, I'm seeing it around that like $1,300 mark. So there has been like a pullback a little bit and a market correction. So, it'll be interesting to see like how long this book holds throughout the months. Once we get Falcon and Winter Soldier and Loki and Black Widow and people are focused on that stuff, what is the Vision book going to be worth then? But then if we end up getting, White Vision in some Avengers level movie, like he comes back in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, like that book is going to blow up again. And that's something that's really interesting. And so I feel like, even though there's like this pullback in the market and there's a market correction, like we've established a new floor. And I feel like that book might, take dips here and there, but the new floor is where it is. And so long as, there's relevance for White Vision within the MCU, and because he's alive, there will always be that potential for him to come back. As long as there's that relevancy, the floor will effectively remain. All right, so let's take a look now at some of the other books here. Of course, another big book that we had, which is really interesting to talk about, is Fantastic Four number 94. This was the first appearance of Agatha Harkness. And, we had done the napkin math for you guys before, but I just kind of wanted to show you the market correction. So, after episode 8, when we got that big reveal with the musical song that Agatha Harkness was, in fact, behind it all along, the average raw value for that was around $183. The median raw was $225. Here you see it was up 148% from the prior week. And then now here after the show, as we take a look at the average raw value, we see that it's $145.65, which is down 21.5% effectively. So there is a market correction. Similarly, the median raw, which was 225, is now 200. So that was down 12%. So this is something that's really interesting to me, that you're seeing that now that we're past the show, there is that market correction. Similarly, let's take a look here. I had the Amazing Spider-Man Annual 16, which all you guys I'm sure are aware. This is the first appearance of Monica Rambeau. We established her in this show. She has superpowers now. And you can see here, after episode 7, which was like the reveal of her superpower tease, we had a CGC 9.6 go for 470. We had a median raw selling for 150, which was up around the 60% mark from the prior weeks. And then after the show here, CGC 9.6 actually holding its value. So, that's something like, it seems like the CGC numbers, it effectively, because it's third-party grading, those typically speaking hold value more than, other certain books. Whereas the median raw here, you see median raw was 150, median raw is now 125. So that's a market correction of 17%, down. So that's something that is interesting to me, that we're getting, all of these market corrections after the explosions of the book. And that just seems like, if you take a step back and you just think about it, anecdotally, you could just tell that, people get the FOMO, they jump on these books, and then after the people who want the books get them, the market is flooded with more supply and there's not as much demand, and there's going to be a correction after those books, kind of come out. But one thing I think overall that I think is super, super interesting is, by the end of the show, because of the way that it ended to me, where we had, White Vision effectively got transferred the memories from old Vision, and he just like flew off into the sky. Like what it said, because he didn't die effectively, right? Like Vision didn't kill White Vision. In fact, he actually got his memories back. So now we kind of technically have Vision again. And then similarly with Agatha Harkness, Catherine Hahn's character, they didn't kill her. Like, she didn't get killed by Scarlet Witch or anything like that. She just got put on, in memory prison, and now she has to live in this town. Because we had that type of ending, it seems very clear to me that, this was already the case with the MCU, that, no characters really ever die. And I mean, that's a truth about comic books, generally speaking. No character ever really dies. Like, there's always a way that they can bring them back. And with the MCU, I think we're really, really starting to see that, specifically with, how WandaVision went. In previous MCU movies and things like that, if we had characters like, Whiplash or, early bad guys in an Avengers movie, I guess even recently as Eric Killmonger, bad guys like that, usually the movie would be sort of one and done with them. We'd see the character, they would get killed by the superhero, and then effectively that's the end of the story. I feel like the MCU is in a new spot where, because this thing is, ongoing, because they want to keep this world rolling for many, many years to come, they don't want to get rid of characters like Agatha Harkness or Vision. They always want to be able to utilize them if they need them. And that's not to say that we're going to get Agatha Harkness in the next movie or anything like that. I mean, look at Abomination, for instance. It took him, effectively 12 years to get, recycled into the MCU. But generally speaking, it feels like, to me, they're always wanting to hold on to these characters, and they're going to have them in their back pocket and utilize them when the time is right for that. So as it relates to, these comic books and these spec books, what I think is really interesting about that is, I think that these spec books in general have legs to stand on. I mean, I think so long as the MCU is running, there is always going to be value within certain books that have first appearances of characters that have relevancy to the MCU. And that's again comes back to, what I talk about with, so long as there's relevance to pop culture, which effectively is the Marvel movies, these books will always have value. So, answering the question, was it worth it? Was it worth picking up some of these sort of spec books? Well, again, it just depends on, what your budget was and what it was it worth it for you? If worth it means I have this book and now it has, you know, relevancy to the MCU, then the answer is, well, yeah, because when you look at the numbers, no matter how you slice it, even though there is a current correction, you know, after the show, the floor for these books is a lot higher than it was before the show ever began, right? You know, if I take a look at that, at the Agatha Harkness book or the Vision book, you know, before the show began, and you got them, you know, say a week before the show, or you got them even during the show, you still, for the most part, are in the green, unless you just bought the very, very tippy top after episode number 8. You know, then you're feeling a little bit of a correction. But what I would say to you guys is, if you bought there, definitely just hold your book, because once these characters come back into the MCU, and you know, they're gonna come back into the MCU. Once they do come back, you know, the ceiling will be eclipsed once again, just by the nature of, like, you know, inflation. I mean, these books are just gonna have their values eclipsed. Now, again, that's not to say that, you know, we're not in a bubble with the comic books industry as a whole, but generally speaking, so long as the MCU is rolling and so long as people are consuming this content and really, really excited about this stuff, the values of these books are going to hold some of their value, generally speaking. Anyways, that's all I have for this video. Let me know what you guys think. Did you guys buy any spec books? What do you guys think of White Vision? What do you guys think about, you know, White Vision effectively being more valuable than original Vision? I mean, I think that is something really interesting. You know, we didn't get a reveal for Monica Rambeau if she was like Spectrum or Photon. You know, they didn't call her any of that. So it's interesting to see if those books ever become the White Vision equivalent to the, you know, Amazing Spider-Man Annual 16. It'll be interesting to see if those books ever surpass you know, their counterpart, if they decide to call Monica Rambeau Spectrum or whatever they decide to do. So anyways, it's really, really interesting. So that's all I got for this video. I'm probably going to do a similar thing with Falcon and Winter Soldier. Let me know if you guys kind of like this, just taking a look at the market with you guys and analyzing some of the numbers. Drop me a like or a comment or subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and I will see you in the next video.